that anything that you put into the recording, into the chat box, will be captured by the recording. So if you'd like to email us separately or submit a question through this form that we have up online, you can do that. You can just email us, whatever you'd like to do. And but if you put it into the chat box, it will be captured in the recording. And I'll send out a link to all the recordings, all the past 3 recordings, at the end of our session today as soon as it's available, so that you'll have that. And feel free to share that with any of your colleagues. If they couldn't make it, then they're more than welcome to watch the recordings online. So today we still have Kevin Pitts and Andres Quintero joining us from Teaching and Learning Center and Blackboard Support. And we're going to be talking today about, we're going to go back to next week. What we forgot, or what we weren't able to cover last week, was groups, talking about group assignments and things like that, and setting up groups in Blackboard. And then we're going to talk about customizing Grade Center, and then discussion board and journals and blogs, and then talk briefly about a tool called Quickly that you might find useful. So I think Kevin, if you are ready, is going to jump into groups.
Okay, happy to do so. Give me 1 sec to share my screen, and we will get started with groups. Okay, if Jen or Andres, you can let me know if you can see my screen okay.
Yep, I can see your screen and your cursor.
Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, so groups. How do we go about setting up groups? Now, a couple of scenarios that you might be thinking about is that you want to do a group assignment, and you want to be able to grade your students all at once in that group, that sort of thing. So if you're doing that, what sort of options do you have in Blackboard? Okay, so here I am in a course that we started last week. A couple of things about groups. You'll find the tools and how to set it up in the control panel. So if I scroll below the menu, you'll see that there's a section called Users and Groups. And if I expand that section, I have access to groups and users. So we're going to click on the Groups tool. So let's go ahead and click that. And let's take a look at our options. Now, here you go. Sometimes what happens is you come up to a screen and you think, there's nothing here to do. What you want to make sure is that you've got edit mode turned on. So remember, at the top right, there's the toggle switch. So if I click that, I now have edit mode on, where it means I can do anything in my course. And what happens is you get access to this new tabs along the top for group options. So you can create groups, etc., import groups, and you can look at some group settings, which I'll talk about in a second. So let's say the scenarios, I just want to set up a couple of groups, and I'm talking about the planets in the solar system. So I want to create a group for each planet, and then have students are assigned to the groups, and they have to go and research and present on the planets of the solar system. So what are my options? So I mouse over the Create tab, and you see that you've got single groups and group sets, and I'll explain the difference. So single groups is if you're just going and creating one group at a time. Okay, so you can either have, in this case, a self-enroll group or a manual enroll group. Okay, so either students enroll themselves, or you go ahead and assign students in the manual option. On the group set, what it would mean is that you can create a whole bunch of groups all at once. So let's say I've got the planets of the solar system. I could then create a group set for all 9 planets or 8 planets, depending on who, where you fall on whether or not Pluto's a planet or not. And then you can do a self-enroll again. You can do manual enroll where you set the students, or in this case, you also have the option to randomly enroll whoever's in your class into that group set. So let's go and look at I'll do both of them just really quickly, just to show you how to go about the process. We start with then what is a single enroll group. So I'll do it as a manual enrollment option. So let's take a look at what the form gives us and what we have to fill out. So let's click on the manual enroll. Like anything in Blackboard, you're given a form, a web form. You have to fill out the form and click submit. Anything with an orange asterisk beside it means you got to fill that field in. Okay, now the one thing I do want to mention about groups is make sure, don't set your groups up in advance. You need to have students enrolled in your course first. So if you're doing group projects, that kind of thing, what I like to do is delay my group projects probably till about week 3 of the semester. That way we get past day 10, and then all students that are coming into the course late, or they're dropping the course or whatever, that sort of sorts itself out. So then I've got all the students in my class, and then I can create the groups based on that student set, and then relieve some headaches in terms of adding students to groups that are coming in, or removing students from groups that if they drop the course, that sort of thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and give it a name. So maybe I'm starting, in this case, because I'm doing one group at a time, I can give them the exact name. So let's take a look at, we'll call this the Mercury group, because they're going to talk about the planet Mercury. Okay, I give it a name. I can give it a description if I like. I won't at this stage, but you certainly could. Group is visible to students. I'm going to say absolutely. I want the students to go ahead and see this group, whoever's enrolled in the group. And then what tools do you want to give each group? And these tools are unique to that group. So only the members of the group get to use these tools. You're not giving it to the whole class. You're giving it to just a certain members of the group. So you have the option of blogs, and Jen's going to talk about blogs a little bit later on. I'm going to say, nah, we won't do blogs, but you might, there might be something that part of their output or their deliver for the group project is to generate a blog where they talk about Mercury. You can grade that blog if you want. Discussion board, you can give them their own discussion board where they can communicate with each other. Sure, let's give them that. You can email, they can email each other, so certainly you probably want to give that one. File exchange, absolutely, you probably want them to swap files around if they're working on a collect document. Journals, again, the same thing, blogs and journals, which Jen will talk about. Are they going to then do a journal posting about their chosen planet or not? I'll just turn that off, but you can certainly do that and put grading on there. You can give them the tasks option, where they can, set up milestones and tasks for each other. And then Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, each group can get their own room in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, and then they can go in and at any time talk to one another in synchronous session. That's a great option especially when we're remote. So do you want them then to create and access session recordings? Because maybe you want them to, because you want them to record all their team meetings so you can go and review them. Maybe that's part of the marking scheme. We won't give them content market tools. We won't give them the wiki. Same kind of thing. Blogs, journals, wikis are available for them, etc. Now, by the way, just to let you know, for me, I like to turn on wikis because that's where I like them to go and document their journey in the wiki. So I have them create a wiki with multiple pages in it where they say this is our project plan, this is our milestone, all that kind of stuff. That way I can track who's doing what in the group. So it helps to alleviate some of those this person did nothing in the group kind of thing. And again, I can give it a grade if I want to. Let me just keep it simple for now, and I'll just turn that off. So we're just given just group communication tools, discussion, email, file exchange, and Blackboard Collaborate, that kind of stuff. Okay, personalization. The groups can then, there's some small kinds of personalization you can do, color themes, those types of things. Maybe if you're doing it for the initially, you'd allow personalization because you don't want to confuse it too much for students unless they're used to using groups, but you certainly can. It's an option for you. I recommend you do create Smart View for the group. That way, when you go to the Grade Center, which Jen will talk about a little bit later on, you can then just pull up a Smart View for just this group. So all the members of the group are together in the Grade Center. And so you don't see all the other students, you just get to see the members of the group for easy marking, that sort of thing. And now I get to add users to the group. So I'm going to manually enroll. That's what we decided. Here's our members of our group, and maybe myself and Andres or Jen, doesn't matter. Let's just put 2 of us in that group, and I will submit. So there we go. We've got myself and Jennifer in this group. Okay, there I've got the role of student, etc. And then I can just simply submit, and I've created that group. Okay, now I know that there's some stuff in the chat, perhaps some questions. So let me just pause right there just to ask or to answer questions that might be pressing. Go ahead, Jen, or Andres, any questions?
No questions so far.
Okay, terrific. So there we go. I've got my Mercury group, okay? And I can, if I ever need to edit it, I've got the 2 enrolled folks, it's available to them. So I can just simply click on the chevron beside it, and I can edit the group. I can, email the group. I can delete the group. I can open the Smart View. Let me just see what happens when you open the Smart View for the group, right? So here we go. Like I talked about, it goes to the Grade Center, and it just shows the members of the group in this view from here. So that's kind of a handy thing when you're thinking about marking. All right, let me come back. Okay, so there's my Mercury group. Now, a couple of things you can do on the group settings here. Let's just go up here and check this out, okay? Okay. Do you want to allow students to create single self-enrolled groups? Okay. And do you want students to edit student created group? So you might see, I'll show you where this might be important. So let me just cancel this for a second, because I'm going to go in as a preview user to see what happens from a student's perspective once this group is created. So I click on the Smart View. Okay, what happens? So what you'll see as a student, sorry about that, is you scroll down to the bottom of your menu, and then you see what groups you belong to. And I'm in the Mercury group along with Jen. So I can click on that, okay, and it shows the tools that we have access to, okay, etc. All the stuff that's happening in this group. Let me go. Okay, so I've clicked on here that I've got the tools. So here's our group, and here's the group properties. There's 2 members. Here's the tools that we have. Okay, and if there's any group assignments that were created, we would see those in there. So that's just giving you an idea of the group options there. Okay, so I'm going to exit the preview as a student, keep my user data, and continue. Okay. So now if I scroll down to groups down in the control panel, I've got access to what my groups are. Now, let's take a look at another kind of a handy thing with groups. If I go up to the very top here, see where I've got all groups, group sets, all users. If I click on all users, I can see at a glance all the students in my class, only 3 at the moment, but then what groups they belong to. Okay, so for example, if I see that Jen is in the group Mercury, you know what? I don't want them to be in that group. I can eliminate Jen from that group. Okay, now it's just me. And then I said, you know what? It should have been Andres that was in the group. I know Jen emailed me and said she doesn't like Mercury. She prefers Venus. So I would say, okay, we'll get you into a different group. So now I can go to Andres, add Andres to the group. And there's only one group right now called Mercury. So I just submit, and now Andres is in the group Mercury. And then Jen, I'd have to add her to the next group, etc. Kind of a really handy link up there with the groups tool. All right, let's go and explore what does a group set look like. So I'm going to go back down to groups. How would we do it if we did it via the group set option? Okay, so now what my idea is, let's say I want to create this planet group set all at once, but I want students to pick their own group, allow them to go to a sign-up sheet, they look at the planets, they pick a planet that they're interested in, and they self-enroll, and then I want to cut it off after a certain amount in that group. So let me just go down here to the group set, and I'm going to do it as a self-enroll group set. Let's see the options that we get. Okay, so now when I do it, this would be planet project, or the planet project, something like that. Okay, now what it does is that in this case, it'll, depending on how many people you have in your class, it'll just say Planet Group Project 1, Planet Group Project 2, and we'll see that in a second. So it doesn't give you that unique name that you can get if you just do it as one group at a time. But let's look at the options here. The group to be visible, yes. Keep it at yes. Sometimes you can do the sign-up sheet only, but the problem is if it's just the sign-up sheet, the students, when they get to enroll in the group, they don't get to actually get into the group until you turn this to yes. So what some folks do is they just early on, they just create the sign-up sheet. Once everybody's in a group, then they come back and say, okay, everybody, now you can go into your groups and work away. So this time, let's keep everything. Let's do blogs, let's do discussion board, let's do email, all kinds of stuff in here. Wikis, we'll keep the whole 9 yards there. I'll allow personalization, this kind of thing. Okay, name of the sign-up sheet here. So now that if you're going to have them, okay, so the planet sign-up sheet, something like that. Okay, and I can give, instructions. Pick sign up for your favorite, something like that. But you'd probably want to be a little bit more explicit in there, etc. And again, I really like to go a little bit higher in font. That's just me. Okay, so now let's come down. Maximum number of members. So let's say there's 3 members allowed per group. I want to show the who's, as you people sign up. It's always, I like to show folks who's in the group. Sometimes folks don't like to say who's in the group. So this, if you show the members, the students go, there's somebody I recognize, I might want to sign up with that group. So there's pros and cons to that. Some people don't want to show the students so that not all the friends are going in one group. Up to you. I'll just say yes for now. So allowing students to sign up from the groups listing page for sure. How many groups do we want? Well, let's just say I'm an old-fashioned guy and I think that that Pluto is a planet, so we're going to go 9. Create a smart group for this, etc., and we'll submit that. Okay, so here we go. Take a look at how it came together. So here's our group set, all 9 of them. Okay, created, and it's a self-enroll group down here. Ready for students to sign up. So let's go through the process as if we are a student and sign up for a group. So I'll just click student preview mode. Okay, I'll come down to you know what forgot to do? I forgot to create a group task here for the sign up sheet. So let me go back and do that. So I'll exit the preview, keep my user data, continue. Okay, so what I might want to do is add groups to my menu. So what I can do with edit mode on is go over to the plus sign, and I can create a tool link in here, and I'll call it groups, something like that. And we know that it's going to be groups tool right there. Make it available and submit. Okay, now let's see what happens as I do this. If I click on groups, okay, so here we go. I click on groups. Now I get a planet group project. View the sign up sheet to join a group. So I click on that. Okay, now, I got one more thing to show you before I click on that. Notice up here, I've got this thing that says create a group. Okay, so as a student, I can even go in and create a group. And maybe I want that, but maybe I don't. So hold on to that thought, and I'll show you how to get rid of that button if you don't want it, because sometimes it can get confusing. So here we go, sign up for a group. Okay, so here's our, and I should have given better instructions. Sign up for your favorite planet. Okay, so again, we don't know which planet is which, so we're just signing up for a group. So let's just say I'll sign up for group 1 just for the sake of it. So here we go, I click sign up. Okay, and right now it just shows me, hey, you're in group 1, you're the only one there, and here's the tools that you have available to you. Okay. Great. So I've done the sign up process. Okay. Maybe what I could do is get Jen or somebody to show how, if they want to sign up for a group as well. But let me just exit the preview for now as a preview user, and I'll come back out. Okay. So the one thing, remember, we talked about. So if I come down now into groups, okay, here we go. From a faculty perspective, I can see, okay, it looks like, yep, 2 members, so obviously Jen or Andres went in there. So I can look at this and say, okay, let's go to that planet. And it looks like Jen and myself are in the group with these tools. There we go. So I can now see who's in the group, who signed up for what. I'm going to come back down to groups here. Okay, what options can I do? Again, I can open the group, edit the group, email the group, delete the group, open the smart view of the group. But I also have these other options over here where I can list the groups, edit the group set properties, edit group set membership. This is really handy here if you decide that, you know what, here's group number 1, here's the 2 users, and maybe, Jen shouldn't have been in there. Sorry, Jen, I'm going to kick you out, but maybe she should go into group 2. She picked the wrong one. She gave you an email. So I can just click on here and just submit that. And now Jen is in group 2 instead of group number 1. Just to, you've got some control as a faculty over where folks are. All right, almost done here for just a quick review of groups. Now, let me come back to the group settings. Again, I just want to point out all users, if you need to go in there, and you can see that myself, I'm in the Mercury group and the Planet Project Group 1, Jen Peters, what she's in, and then what Andres is in, and then you can either remove or add as needed. So it's a quick way to do that. All right, let me go back to groups. Let me look at the edit the group settings. Remember we had that button at the top that says as a student you can create your own groups. So if you don't want that, you just want them to, your students, I recommend this if you're, especially if you're first semester and your students are just learning how groups work, not to give them confusing options, because they might go in there and think, oh, I got to create my group for me, rather than pick one of the groups that's already created. So I'm just going to turn both of those options off. Looks like they were on by default, and submit that. Okay, now, and it gives me say, yeah, it worked. Now if I go in as a student and I go down to my groups to see what's happening, I don't see that button up here to create a group. I can just see the buttons that the groups that I belong to, and we can go ahead and work on our projects. Okay, let me stop there for a second. There's one other thing to show you if you just wanted to create a group assignment. And I can go over that quickly, but Jen, did you want to move on to something else, or any questions at this stage?
No, there's no questions, and I think it's a good idea to show how to do the group assignment, and then I can hop into the Grade Center stuff.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just carry on. It won't be long, just a couple more minutes. So let's exit this preview. I'll keep my user data, so I can always test things out as a student, and I really recommend that, that you keep yourself in the course as a student, and test everything you assign to students, you do yourself, and test it out to make sure it's working properly. All right, so let's say now I'm going to create a group assignment. So I'm going into tests and assignments, if we're using that. And I'm going to go to an assessment, and I'm going to create an assignment where they have to write a project or do a wiki on a planet or something like that. Okay, so my, we'll call it the planet project. And I might say, review the instructions in the attached document. Okay. There we go. I can attach a doc. Oops, and you know what I'm doing? I'm not going to attach it there. I'm going to come down and attach it here. So browse my computer. I am going to go into here, look at assignments. And maybe it's a group reflection assignment. So I'll attach the instructions there. And I think I had it initially as there we go. Okay. So I'll open that up. Perfect. Here we go. So I'll change this up here to Planet Project Group Reflection. So they're going to talk about their process, what went well, what didn't go so well, that kind of stuff. Okay, so review the project. Then I can set a due date for it. I can say it's going to be due, I don't know, next week. I can, points possible, I can say it's worth 10 points. I could attach a rubric. And I know Jen talked about rubrics last week. So what the heck, we'll pick a rubric, and maybe it's assignment number 1 rubric, and we'll submit that. I'm not sure if it is, but we'll look at that. Now the rubric then, depending on how many points are available in the rubric, it'll change this value. It looks like it was 10 points anyway, so it worked out. But it doesn't, you can always have it automatically change to that. And we want to say I recommend that when you're using rubrics, because it's a great tool to show students expectations. What is expected of your student? How are they going to be graded? So I always like to turn this on to yes with rubric scores, so they can see before they do it what the expectations are. It's by default it's off, but I recommend putting it on. Okay, let's look at submission details. So now we get another option here. The assignment type could be a group submission, not an individual submission. Okay, and which groups are then going to be marked on this? So I'm going to select the groups. Remember, we're just going to go with the set for the 9. So I'm just going to click the Planet group set, highlight them. Now what I did here, by the way, I'm not taking the Mercury group. That was a single one-off group for another thing. So I'm just taking, what I did is I highlighted the first Planet group, held the Shift key down, and then click the last one, and it takes all the groups in between. If you wanted to do individually, you could simply highlight, say, the group 2, just the even numbers, hold down the Control key and select the even numbered groups, okay? Something like that, because maybe the even number groups have a different reflection assignment than the odd number groups. I don't know if that was a case. In my case, I'm just going to click all of them. So Shift in this case to get them all. So there's the groups that are going to be in this assignment. Number of attempts, maybe you want to give them a couple of attempts or a single attempt, whatever you want. I'll just keep it for single for now. Do you want to check for plagiarism? Sure. Allow students to view? Sure. Do I want to exclude it? No, I'll have to give the students a choice to if they want to add it to the database. Grading options. You can allow anonymous grading where you don't see the names of the students. I'll just leave it as off for now, and we don't do delegated grading, so we don't select that. It's going to automatically create something in the gradebook, so I'll just make it as a primary display of percentage, and then maybe the secondary display is score. Students only see primary display. They do not see secondary display. Other thing to note is if you make this a percentage, when you input grades, make them percent grades. So if they got 8 out of 10, put in 80%. If this was score and you're inputting grades out of 10, you put 8. So you just make sure you're aware of that when you're inputting grades. Do you want to include in the Grade Center calculations? Yep. Do you want to show students my grades? Absolutely. Do you want to show the average? You could. Why not? We'll show students so they can get a sense of how they did against their peers in the class. Do I want to make the assignment available? Absolutely. Do I want to track the number of views? I'm not going to. I generally don't turn on statistics tracking. It doesn't really give you a lot of information unless you want it by generating statistics reports. It's up to you. So let me go ahead and submit that. So now we have the assignment. It's at the bottom. I'm going to just zip it up to the top so that students get to see the latest assignment at the very top. There we go. And now I'm going to go and test it as a student, see what happens. So I click the Enter the Student Preview mode, come down to Tests and Assignments. Okay. All right. And now we've got the Planet Group Reflection. Oops. I don't know why it's got an invalid file there. Maybe Andres could tell me, did I make it an incorrect file there? All right, let's go back and go into Planet Project, and I can see the information. I can view the rubric. Okay, I see how I'm going to be graded. It looks like here I can see, the files seems to work. Okay, there's the instructions about what to do with the group project. That's great. And then I'm ready to go ahead and submit. Maybe we've done our submission. So I'm going to browse my computer. Here's our group reflection, and I'm going to submit it. Okay. And then I'm going to agree to have the paper submitted to the Global Reference Database. I'm the one designated in our group to submit on behalf of the group. It doesn't matter who in the group the group decides, just one person in the group needs to submit. I can say comments like, please give us an A. Give us an A. Good. Okay, something, I don't know, just getting around there. So let's go and submit. Okay, work is being submitted for the entire group. Do you want to continue? So there you go. So one of the members will know that they're submitting it on behalf of the group, and we say okay. Great. So now I've submitted. Okay. So as a student, if I go into the weekly assignments here, and I come down to the Planet Group Reflection, it'll show the submission. Okay, it'll show what we commented, those types of things. It should give us the assignment information here. Maybe it's just taking its time. I can look at the rubric and see what's going on there. I can see the grade once it's graded, etc. And the actual submission is here. Oh, that's the assignment file, not the submission. Okay, so it looks like it's in process right now. So let's go. I'm going to exit this, keep student preview data. Now let's go and look at it from the instructor's point of view. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll come down and I see that I'm going to check the Grade Center. So I come down to Grade Center here and I look at, well, what does anything need grading? So I go into needs grading, and I see that, oh, assignment number 1, we've got a Planet Group Project 1 has been submitted. So let's go and check it out. Okay, so here it is, the group project. We'll look at the submission. Did it take the submission? It looks like it didn't take that file. So I'm going to have to go back and find the file that was submitted. Maybe I didn't attach it or it didn't go in there, but that's okay. Imagine there is a file here if you like. But what's important is that you can see here that you've got options to grade. I can click on here and I can look at the rubric, and I can add points to the rubric, you know, whatever points you want to, or I could do it in table view and simply select different options here from the rubric, etc. The stuff that Jen showed last week, you know, those kinds of things. So I won't do that just here. But the other thing you'll notice is that down here it knows who's in the group, and whatever you can do individual group, you know, maybe one member of the group based on the reflection deserves more grades. You can look at that. Maybe I'll just say that they got an 8 out of 10. Okay, after reviewing it and commenting and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'll save that. Okay, oops, I forgot because I should have entered. Okay, I got to go and let me just give them something from the rubric, because it was to save the rubric. Sure, let's say it was all that stuff. And I gave them some feedback, something about please remember to include peer evaluations or something like that in there, whatever feedback was there. And then you can give them some more feedback here, blah, blah, blah. You can also give them voice feedback or attach a file. But then if we just go and submit that, okay, then if I go to the grade center, so that's been submitted. So now I go to full grade center, and we can see that here we go into the Planet Group Project, okay, that both Jen and myself got the same grade that was submitted. All the members of the group get that grade into that Planet Group Project. And then, you know, if later on, if you decide that there was some conversation that maybe Jennifer did a lot more work, I can go back and edit that and give her a little bit better grade if that was the case. Okay, I think that covers that. Any questions in terms of groups, creating groups and group submissions, assignments?
There's a couple questions. One was, is it possible to assign group leaders?
Not directly in the groups, and Andres, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not aware of a way to assign it as a group leader, but you would make that as maybe part of their project plan, is to say who is the group leader and who's responsible for submitting the assignment on behalf of the group. Those types of things.
Okay.
You're correct, Kevin. There's no way to assign group leaders as far as I'm aware.
And then the last questions, they're all sort of around Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. And one of the sad things is that the groups in Blackboard are not connected to the breakout groups in Collaborate Ultra.
Yeah.
So the ones that you've created in Blackboard, if you pop into Collaborate Ultra, they're not going to be there. You'd have to do it manually, but we can demo how to do that.
Yeah, and that's the one thing with Collaborate. You have to create the groups on a fly. You can't save groups in Collaborate Ultra. They disappear after each session. So, but we can talk about some options there when we get to that point.
And also, yeah, we're going to talk about live group work and polling in the Collaborate Ultra section. So I'll just go in and cover some Grade Center stuff, and then we can spend quite a bit more time on Collaborate Ultra, because I know that's a very popular topic for folks.
Great. Okay, I'll stop sharing and hand it back over to you then, Jen.
Thank you. So
Jen, Kevin, just since Kevin had the student preview for his assignment, I uploaded an assignment under my student preview, so you can use that as an example if you want.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, Kevin, Andreas was saying that it looks like it's only in student preview that weird error message is coming up. So.
Okay. Oh, well, we'll investigate further. Something. I'm sure Andres is just so happy to see that error message show up.
I love seeing issues like this. It makes my day.
Do you want me to show that now, Andres, or Jen, or do you want to go on to Grade Center?
What? The
uploaded assignment. Yeah.
Sure, if you'd like to.
Okay. Let me just, I have to go back and share again.
Let me stop sharing.
Okay, there we go. All right. And then we'll we'll move on to that quickly. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to come down again to the needs. Let's see what needs grading. And there's Andres has submitted, I guess, Planet Group Assignment number 2. And there it is. Okay, so there's the file uploaded, and I know Jen showed you there's lots of annotation options now. It's a new annotation system. If you haven't used it before, you can do things like pen, etc. You can add images, comments, all that kind of stuff. And I know that Jen talked about that in the previous session, so I won't do that now, but I just show you that you can, there's the file, you can read it. I can then go to the rubric and I can attach a score. And now the other thing is the Safe Assign report came in, so I can see it's 8% overall match, and I can review the Safe Assign report on that and see what has been the same. So there's a couple of options from the internet here, and we can go ahead and check those out and see. But 5% or 8% is really, really low, so it's probably nothing to worry about, but you might want to come in here and review that report at certain times. Okay, so here we go, and I can look at here's the file here. I can also download it if I wanted to here, work offline, and then I can simply just go into the rubric, and I'll just do it this time by using this kind of button approach as opposed to the table approach, that sort of thing, and give some feedback and save the rubric. And Andres it's only got 3.5. Sorry, Andres, you didn't do too well on this one, but maybe we'll give you another chance. And I'll submit that. And then if I go to the Grade Center, I'll see an Andres there has got his grade, 35%, and he's the only one in the group. So that I would, if it was other members of the group, then we would see that as well. Okay, there you go. Thanks, Andres, for submitting that so we could see the actual file in line. Is that okay?
Yep, thank you. And Frank just had a question. One of the group tools is Collaborate. And this is the same tool. It's Blackboard Collaborate, but it gives the students their own Blackboard Collaborate Ultra tool to work with. So the students can actually talk to each other through Collaborate Ultra. It's not the same as the ones that you would set up for class.
And also, the other good thing is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Andres, but students are presenters by default if they're in a group and it's given that tool. Is that right?
That is correct. They are presenters by default, and they also get the ability, if you enable it, to record their own sort of meetings and have access to their own recordings. So it's an option they could enable within the group, and that way they can sort of create their recordings. Great.
Thanks, Andres. Okay, Jen, back over to you.
All right, so I'm just going to show you a couple of things in in full Grade Center that might be useful. So let me pop over here, take over my whole screen here. Just a couple of things that might reduce your workload in Grade Center. So I'm just going to go to full Grade Center. Pop this up. So just a couple of basic things that you might want to do to improve your experience in here is, Grade Center is kind of this long scrolling thing that isn't all that user-friendly. So to maximize your real estate on here, you might want to manage your views of the different columns. You might not need to see a couple of these columns. So you can do that just by going to Manage and Column Organization. Column organization is really useful for a number of things. So you can see all of the columns right now are viewable. So I could go in and I could hide a couple of these ones, such as availability, last access. I'm just going to hide all these 4 right here. I can always show them again, but if I want to hide them just on a daily basis, I can do that. I could also go in and see if there's anything I want to hide here for now, but no, I'm good for now. So I can say hide those columns up there. And then when I say submit, it'll take me back to the Grade Center. And now I have a little bit more real estate. This total column is not really useful. It's just sort of a total of all the points in the course. So I could do a couple of things. I could hide it from my view. I want to make sure that I hide it from student view first. To do that, I would go into Edit Column Information and then go all the way down to the bottom. and say, show this column to students? No. Just from experience, students find this very confusing to see a total of points available in their course. Imagine if they had 88 points, but there were 460 points available. So it's kind of confusing to them. The weighted column is much more useful if you're going to show anything to students in that regard. So I can just go here, and once I've hidden it from students, I can now hide it from my view and just say hide from instructor view. And again, I get more real estate. So now I can actually see the actual assignments that are coming up. So as things come in, you'll see little exclamation marks pop up. It means that it needs grading. I've set this to show me the score and then percentage. So students will always see the score, and then I'll also see the percentage just for my own purpose. Something you can do to add another visual cue to Grade Center is add color coding in. So under Manage, you can go to Grading Color Codes, and this sort of identifies to you maybe students that are having some issues. And I want to enable color codes. I want to show myself some things if they're if their grades are low and things like that. So I can go down to grade ranges, and I can add a criteria here. And I could say less than, and maybe I want to see all the ones that are less than 50%. And I want it to be a really bright color so that it appears to me, so that I can actually it jumps out at me. And so I want it to be hot pink, and if they're getting less than 50%. And so if I say submit, now when I go to Grade Center, all the students that have gotten less than 50% on an assignment, it's going to pop out at me. So if I have one student that's got a lot of hot pink in their row, that'll jump out to me as, uh-oh, this is a student that's in trouble. I might need to do some follow-up and see what's going on there. So you can add in other color coding in there too. So if you want to see the students that are doing really well, you can always add in color codes, or the ones that are sort of on the line of failing, so that it can identify it to you. So we've gone in and we've added assignment, drop boxes, and tests online through tests and assignments. So that does a lot of the work for you in terms of the quizzes can be automatically graded if they're multiple choice, true, false. The assignment Dropbox, it gives you that nice grading panel. But one of the things you might do in your course is you might have sort of a series of smaller assessments, and then you might do something like drop the lowest grade or drop the 2 lowest grades. So let's say we have some homework assignments, and I've gone in and I've added 4 columns here for homework assignments. So let's say they have 5 homework assignments throughout the semester, and they're all worth different points, and I'm going to drop the lowest grade. So they need to do 4 out of 5 homework assignments for sure, but if they do all the 5 assignments, then I'll drop their lowest grade. So I'm going to create one more column here for their last homework assignment. So I'll call this homework 5. And this is a manual grade that I'm creating, a manual column. So this is not something they're going to submit online to me. This is something they're going to do in class and, through Collaborate Ultra, or actually back in a physical classroom at some point in time. And then I'm going to come here and grade it manually for them. So I'm going to make the points possible 19, because I just want to make it a random number to show you something later. You can add a rubric, of course, at this time, and then I'm just going to submit. So this is just like a standard column here. So as you can see, it adds it to the end, so it's out of order now because the Planet project's there. So I can fix that in column organization. I'm going to do something before I go to column organization, though. I'm going to make the grading a lot easier on myself, and I'm going to have Grade Center figure out dropping the lowest grade for me. So my first thing I have to do is I have to decide on a category I want to assign to these columns. So I can go into Manage and Categories, and there's a lot of default categories in here, and I could choose one of these guys if I wanted to, or I could actually create my own category just by clicking on Create, and I'm going to call this Homework Exercise. So this is just for my particular course. I've got something specific that I want to use, and I've created the category Homework Exercise. When I go back to Grade Center, now I'm going to go to column organization. So again, this is a great little spot to do some some bulk work. You don't have to do it all one by one. So I can see I've got my homework one down here, so I want to move that up so that it's all in a row together. And then I want to assign that homework exercise category to all of these ones. I could do it individually one by one by going in and editing each column, or I could come here and just say change category to homework exercise. So you can see it changes it to homework exercise, and then submit. So what was the point of this? Why did I do this? This is so that I can use that weighted column to do all that figuring for me. So the weighted total, weighted column, you'll get this by default in Grade Center. And this is, I think it's wonderful because I'm not the biggest fan of math. I know Kevin's a math teacher, but I just want to, I want this to do all my work for me. So when I go into edit information, this will do all my calculations. So if I scroll down, it gives me a new tool that I can work with here. Now I can go in and I can add in some of the assignments that are in here, just by clicking on the shift button and selecting them all. And I can come in here and start to say, the review quiz was 5%, the writing exercise was 10%, FIM is 10%, research essay is 30%. And this means it's 5%, 10% of the final grade, so the entire course final grade. So as I do that, it's figuring out my total weight down here of all the assignments in the course. Now, because I have the 5 homework exercises, I don't want to add them individually because I want the category to have a little bit of calculation in it. So I skip over the columns and I go straight to categories here. And I click on homework exercise and bump that over. Now this gives me some additional functionality because it's a category. And I can say that this homework exercise, it was 15% of the final grade. I can say, I want you to weight the columns equally. So all the homework exercises, even though they're out of different weights, they're still worth equal amounts. Or you could say proportionately. You could say some of the homework exercises were more difficult than others, and so they had higher points assigned to them. And then this is where you can say drop the lowest grade. So I could say drop 1 lowest grade, drop 2 lowest grades, whatever you'd like to. Or you could just use the lowest value to calculate or the highest value to calculate. So maybe they get 5 try something and then their highest mark is the only one that you'll be counting. So you can see we've got 70% of the final grade here in the weighted panel. Now, because I have calculate as running total turned on, it means that it's going to calculate that sort of as a running total. So it's not going to be, based on tell me that I have, 30% in the course just because I haven't finished assignments yet. It'll always be a total. So throughout the semester, I can see if students have 60% and then they handed in an assignment and it bumped them up to 80% or it dropped them down to 50%. So it's always a running total there. I don't have to add the final assignment into here because it's a running total. So I could just leave that out of this completely. And then I could say submit. It's saying it's not all to 100%, and that's fine. It's a running total, so it doesn't have to be. So now I've got my weighted total here, and it says, oh, Jennifer Peters, she's in trouble. She's only at 20% out of all the things that she's handed in. And then Kevin, he's sort of on the line there. So, that I might want to watch him a little bit. And I didn't add the planet project in. That's why Andreas is not showing as having anything yet. Now, this is up to you whether you want to show this to students or not. Some faculty show it to students so that students can monitor their progress. Some faculty find that it's a real pain to show this to students because students are always reaching out to them saying, but I thought I had higher grades, but I thought I should have higher marks for the semester and things like that. So this is totally up to you whether you want to show it. If you don't want to show it to students, then you can just click on the drop down and say hide from students. And then you'll get that circle with the red line through it if it's hidden from students. It's good for you to see though, because then you can track the progress of the students in your course. Any questions about that so far?
No questions so far, Jen.
Okay. Is there anything else you think that is important to show in here, Kevin?
Did you want to show as a student what appears in my grades?
Yeah, sure. So I'll hop into student preview over here. Let's see if we get any weird error messages happening over here. So by default, this My Grades shows up in the course menu. And when they click on it, they can go in and they can see all of the assessments, all of the columns that appear to them. And so they can see, all the exercises, they can see plan a project. So if they had submitted something, this is what they'll get. They'll get a grade here. They'll get the ability to see the feedback that's been provided to them. They'll get to see the rubric that was graded for that, or they can just click right onto the name of the assignment, and then they'll get into the actual grading panel that was completed by their professor. If they haven't submitted anything yet, then it'll just be blank and they won't see a grade or anything like that. If they have submitted but it hasn't been graded, then they'll get an exclamation. They'll see an exclamation mark, meaning that the professor hasn't yet graded it yet. Like that. And I hid the weighted column so they're not able to see the weighted column in there. A couple of things I just wanted to show you here is that if you ever delete a column by mistake, one of the calculated columns, so if you ever delete the weighted column by mistake, you can add it back in just by saying create calculated column and then weighted column right here. And then you can add it back in. I know that happens sometimes. And then if you do hide a column from your son, forget how to find it back, again, it's just under column organization under managed. And also there is row visibility. So if you do create a preview user for yourself and you're testing everything out before the semester starts, and like we do here, we've got all this stuff in here. If it gets into the semester and you're sick and tired of seeing your preview, you can go in and hide that row from yourself temporarily. So if you wanted to go in and say, I don't want to see my preview user anymore, and then just say submit, then, oh, I'm still seeing it. Let's try that again. Maybe it won't show up for me. Hide rows, sorry. Got to click on the hide rows and then submit. So that hides me, my preview user from me. And that's something I often do because I don't want to delete the preview user because I'd like to have all that data, the testing data that I've done as I'm testing out the different assignments. And then if I just want to go back in and view it again, I can go back in and just say show. So it's good to explore that Manage tab a little bit, where you can kind of go in and look at different things that you can customize and show to yourself. Under Smart Views, you can sort of add favorites in too. So if you see over on the right-hand side, you might have seen assignments and tests over here. And this is something that by default shows up in your favorites. But if there's something that you're going to be grading on a regular basis, maybe a type of assignment like a discussion board or journals, things like that, you can go in and you can add that to your favorites so that a shortcut will appear over on the left-hand side. So that might be useful to you, might not be useful to you, but if there's something that you're grading constantly and you just want to see that, then you can go in and click on that. Now I'll hop into discussion boards, journals, and blogs. I won't spend a ton of time on them because I know everybody wants to see Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, but are there any questions before we move on?
No questions, Jen. Carry on.
Okay. So there's some tools available to us, and you can see them all under course tools over here, where you've got discussion boards, journals, and blogs. These can be used for assignments, and they can be used just for communication throughout the semester as well, depending on how you'd like to use them. So I'll start off sort of with the sort of most straightforward is journals. So Kevin he added a journal to this group project, so that's why you see all these journals in here. But if you wanted to create a journal as an assignment for students, you could do that as well. Or if you just wanted them to track maybe the reflections about some sort of work integrated learning that they're doing or some sort of experience that they're having learning, you can do that too. So I'll put this under assignments. If we go under tests and assignments, you can see under tools, this is where we can get to discussion board, blogs, and journals. The difference between the three is, think of journals more as sort of a reflective diary sort of thing, where typically the professor will be the only one seeing the entries. So it'll be the student writing and the professor will see them. Typically, it's not going to be open to the class. A blog is more like a newspaper site. So a blog is where you can create an online essay report type of thing where other students can read it and then comment on it. So it has more interactivity to it. It has more openness to it rather than a journal, which is a personal reflection. But having a blog in Blackboard is not open to the public. So that's why you might want to use the blogging tool in Blackboard as opposed to something like WordPress or Tumblr or one of those public blogs where everybody in the world can see them. Discussion board, this is actually something that has threaded discussions in it. So it's not about me posting and you commenting. It's about me posting, you replying, me replying to you. So it's more of a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Blog is more about me posting and then other people commenting on it. So if I go into journals, because they all look kind of similar once we get into there. If I say create new journal, and let's say this is, work integrated learning reflection. So this is something where students are going to go in every day. They're at their particular placement, whether it's online or face-to-face now, who knows what's going to happen. They can come in here and reflect. So post a reflection for each day of work integrated learning. So I'm making the journal available. As I scroll down, I can say limit the availability. So I could say display after or until, but this is going to be ongoing, so I'm probably just going to leave it open. The indexing of entries, this is not really all that important, I don't think, unless you're doing a ton of entries. If you're doing 30, 40 entries, then maybe you do want to index it weekly so that it's easier to look at and manage the view of it. But if it's something that they're only doing in 1 month, then having it indexed monthly is fine. Do you want to allow users to edit and delete the entries? So once they've submitted it, can they go back and edit it? Well, if you're going to grade it, you probably don't want that. So I will leave that unchecked. Allow users to delete comments. So as a professor, I have the ability to comment on their journal. So do you want them to be able to delete it? If it's graded, probably not. Do you want to permit course users to view journal? This is kind of an odd choice for a journal, I would think. If I wanted the course users to view this journal, I would probably just use a blog instead. So I'm just going to leave that unchecked as well. And now we get down into grading. So again, you don't have to grade this. So if you just wanted to have this as something that it's a personal reflection for them, that's fine. But I'm going to say I'm going to grade it. And maybe I'm just going to check off that they do it and that it's complete. So I'll say they need to do 10 entries because it's a 2-week placement. And then I can say show participants to me in needs grading after every 1 entry or every 10 entries. It's up to me, however, when I actually want to see it. I'll leave it at 1 for now, but you can just leave it. You can put it at 10 so that when it's complete, that's when it'll actually show. You've got your nice due date here. So let's say we've got a due date of that, and then you can also add a rubric as well. So I'll say submit. So I've created the journal. Now I can launch it. So I can say, yes, I'm going to launch this as an assignment here. And it's just saying, okay, you want to launch it now? Yes, I do. You can, unavailable for the time being if you'd like to, or add restrictions. So when I deploy it down here, you can see that the work integrated learning reflection is here, and by default this is the journal icon that pops up. So as a student, now when I go in to my tests and assignments, I can see that my work integrated learning reflection is here, and every day of my work integrated learning I can come here and create a journal entry. So I can click on create journal entry, day 1, if I want to say that, and then I can enter in my my entry here. I could add photos in, I could add videos in if I'm collecting media at my Work Integrated Learning spot, and I can do a number of things. I can also attach it directly from my computer, so it could be a Word document or a PDF, and then I can post it. So there's my journal. It comes in this cute little sort of torn out page format, and then I can go back in and add another journal entry. So this will be day 2. I'll come in here, do my reflection, or attach a document, and then post entry. So you can see sort of oldest one appears at the bottom, day 1, so that when I actually go in to grade this, let me exit out of here as a student. When I go down to needs grading, because I set it as show me after every one post, I can click into here and I can actually see the entries that they've made. I can comment directly on the entry itself, so I can do a specific comment on that day. I can also comment on the journal in its totality, so I can come over here and say this was a really interesting reflective exercise, blah, 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 blah. I can add the audio feedback under the A. I can use the rubric if I've added one, and then I can grade it out of 10 here. So it's up to you when you actually want to see this. For me, when I use journals, it's for the whole semester. And so I just tell them this is, you need to do these reflections at these particular times. And then at the end of the semester is when I'm going to be reading them all. Because they're personal reflections, it's not like they're reporting back to me on anything. All right, so that's the journal tool. The blog tool is very similar. If we don't have any questions, I can hop over into that.
No questions, Jen. Carry on.
Okay. So back under tests and assignments, same area where I added the journals is under tools, and now I'm going to go to the blogs. And I always get asked, when would you use a blog? And in my experience, I've used blogs with students where they've needed to write some sort of a less formal report on something. So it's not an academic essay, it's more like a news story. So if I say create new blog, and maybe they're going to be creating a series of blog posts throughout the semester on a topic. So maybe I'll call this the social justice current events. So each week they have to go in and they have to pick a current event and do a write-up about it. Write it up. So they need to have video, they need to have images, they need to link media. So it's a real news story. So scrolling down, you can see this is very similar to what journals was. And you get a bit of a difference right here under blog type. So is this an individual blog to all students? So each student's going to get their own personal blog that they're going to post their blog post to? Or will you have one single course blog where everybody contributes an article to it? And this is, an interesting approach. You could have a social justice blog where everybody picks a particular issue and then they write an article and contribute to one class blog. Or you could just say, no, throughout the semester you're going to do 10 of these blog posts and that'll be individual to all students. Allow anonymous comments is checked by default. I would unselect that. I would not allow anonymous comments at any time, probably in my class. I feel like anonymous comments can lead to some trouble. So make sure that students' names are always associated with what they're posting to your class, anything in Blackboard. Again, we get the indexing monthly versus weekly. If you're doing many months throughout the semester, you might want to do it monthly just to see it. It might be easier for you to view. Allow users to delete entries. Probably not if this is graded. Allow users to delete comments. So this is up to you. If you want students to have the ability to delete negative comments on their blog, it might be constructive criticism, so you might not want it deleted, but if it is something concerning, you can always delete it for them. So I'll leave that unchecked. And again, the grading is very similar. If they're going to do, 10 blog posts, maybe they get a couple of marks for each, and then you can just put the points possible there. Do you want to see it every week? Probably for this type of thing, so I can see it after every one entry. You've got your due date again, available to you, and then you can add a rubric. So kind of similar look and feel as a journal. And again, we've created the assignment. Now it's saying, do you want to deploy it? And yeah, I'm just gonna say next, and I want you to launch the actual assignment and say yes. So now, if we scroll down, we've got social justice current events. So, and it's got sort of this like little thought or voice bubble there. As a student, I would go in to access it, and I would click on social justice current events. I would create my blog entry over here, and then I would say, you know, this week is Black Lives Matter, and then I could do my write-up here. I could go and include some YouTube videos too. If I went into the mashups, I could find some great YouTube videos about Black Lives Matter. I could include images. I could link out to other news sources and have that here. So you can create a really cool sort of news story using the blog tool. But it's not publicly available, which kind of protects the students a little bit, just in case they post something that maybe needs a little bit of polishing. So it shows up more as just a regular post. You don't get that ripped page effect here. And they would go in and create their multiple blog entries throughout the semester here. And then you could come here and comment. Students could access other folks' blogs too, because this is open to the course. So they could just click in you could create a tool on the side here for blogs, and then other students would be able to access other students' blogs. Exit out of there. And as usual, it'll show up in your needs grading because I said to tell me after every one. Now, if there's no questions, I'll hop in a discussion board, which is a little bit more complicated than blogs and journals. Okay, so discussion board, the logic of it kind of always confuses me. So maybe Andreas and Kevin can help me talk through this. So I can add a discussion board as an assignment. I can also add a discussion board just as a general Q&A in the course if I want to. So if I was to do it as an assignment, I would do it right from the tests and assignments and go into tools and discussion board. And I'm going to create a new forum. So this will be something just that I create brand new. And maybe this is, what are we having a discussion about? Well, we can kind of stick to the same thing. So social justice current events. And maybe this type of assignment is where students have to come and create a thread in the discussion board. So they have to bring a question to the discussion board and pose it to the class, and then students have to come and answer it. So I could say, create a thread with your question and answer at least 2 of your classmates' questions. There's a couple of components to this assignment. They have to think of a question, and then they have to answer a question. As we scroll down, we've got the forum is available. I'm not going to restrict dates. We've got some different settings for discussion board this time around. So we've got viewing threads and replies. Standard view is you just can see what you're able to see. Another view is that participants must create a thread in order to view other threads in this forum. So this might be something that you do so that you don't have students sort of copying other students' questions. The problem with that is that if another student had created the same question, I wouldn't be able to see that before I posted mine. So I don't usually use that, but other folks might choose to use that. I'm going to grade this discussion forum. And so they have to do 3 things, a question and then answer 2 questions. So I'll just keep it simple and say points possible 3. So they have to do 3 things. If you do say grade threads, this is going to create a grade center column for every thread in the grade center. And this kind of can overwhelm your grade center, your full grade center. So I've only ever used it for grading the discussion forum too, but I don't know if Kevin and Andreas can talk to other useful uses for grading actual individual threads. But as I go down, I'm going to say show participants in need grading status after every, maybe I want them to, do all three before I hear about it, but I'll just do one just to show you the example today. Again, your due date, pretty standard stuff. You can add a rubric too at this point. And you get tons of more options down here. By default, members can subscribe to the forum so that they're notified when a new question has been posted or replies and things have been posted. So yeah, you can include it in the body of the post in the email. I don't have to come back to the discussion board to actually read it. I can read it in the email. And a link to the post too is a good idea. Allow anonymous posts has been crossed out, and I believe that's because this is graded. So you can't post an anonymous post if it's graded. Again, I don't believe in anonymous posts in a class Blackboard, so it's up to you what you'd like to do. Do you want the author to delete their own posts? The ability to. Probably not if it's graded. Allow author to edit their posts. So can they go back in and fix it if there's any errors? If it's graded, probably not a good idea, because if you go in and you grade it and then they change it, it might be a problem. Allow members to create new threads. This is something by the nature of this assignment, they have to create new threads. In the past, I've also done discussion forums where they don't create threads. I create all the threads myself, and I will pose all the questions myself, and then they just have to answer it. So I could deselect that for that type of assignment. File attachments, sure. Allow users to reply with a quote, sure. It means that they can quote a discussion post from the previous student. You can also moderate posts if you're a little bit worried about inappropriate language. And post tagging and members to rate posts, you can do that too if you want to, sort of give thumbs up and things like that, but I'm not going to do that for the assignment. What you could do is to rate posts, if you had the course Q&A, you could have questions asked and then have members rate those particular posts so that you could see what are the most popular questions coming in about the course. And submit. Okay, so I'm going to now deploy that particular discussion board in this assignment area because it's an assignment. So I can go down and say, yeah, deploy this now. And it does it down at the bottom. So now I get the two little kind of back and forth bubbles here, the speech bubbles, that shows me that's a discussion forum. And as a student, I can go in, I can go to tests and assignments, and then click on that discussion board. And this is where I can create a thread now. So I can come in and say, this is my question, this is my topic, and then this is my question. Like that. And then what'll happen is you'll get all your students will show up here, their names will show up here. This will be their topic. So as a student, I could go in and say, oh, that sounds really interesting. I'm going to click on that. And I think that's a really thought-provoking question. So I can come here and I can say, this is my amazing answer. So now it's going to be sort of, people can respond to mine, people can just respond to yours. And I'll pop out of that. And if I go into Grade Center, I should be able to see, needs grading, sorry. If I go into needs grading, I should be able to see the discussion board pop up because I said notify me after every one post. And I can see the two posts by this particular student. And I can, read this. I can link to the original posts and see it in context here. And then I can grade it over here. Now, if I had gone straight into Course Tools, into Discussion Board, this is where I can see all the different discussion boards that I have here. If I say Show All. If I go into this forum, so this is the main class forum. So I've got my social justice current events here, and I've also got a course Q&A. that I created previously. Now, if I wanted to drop this into the course menu and just have it showing throughout the entire semester so that any student could come in and post, I could do that just by clicking on this little plus symbol up here. And I wanted to add a course link. So this is linking to something specific in the course. I can call this a course, oops. Oh dear, I think my computer is crashing again. Okay, sorry, my mistake. And it pops up the course over on the side. And so I can go over and look for discussion board course Q&A right here. The name course Q&A and make it available to users and submit. So now I've got this discussion board over here. It's not graded. This is just a plain old discussion board where people can create threads. They won't receive any, it won't show up in needs grading or anything like that. And they can come here and just ask about the course. You know, when is our weekly meeting or something like that. They can just post that, and then I can go in as, or other students can go in and answer that. And this will always be available to students. Whereas for the tests and assignments, they know that this particular assignment, social justice current events, it might be in a discussion board, but it's not for general class discussion. This is for this particular item. Any questions about discussion boards, journals, or blogs?
Jen, there's a couple. Yvette was talking about, she missed the mashups piece.
Yeah.
And it's also, Esther wants, so with mashups, the other one is Esther wants you to show how to create the Q&A from the start.
The Q&A, sure. So the mashups, this mashups tool is anywhere in Blackboard where you get this text box. So it can appear when you're creating, you know, items, or I think it's quiz questions it appears to, assignments, all that kind of stuff. You get this little mashups tool here. And when you click on it and click on YouTube video, this pops up a box where you can search YouTube from within Blackboard. So let's say I was to go in here and I'll type something sort of safe. I'll type in business writing. And this searches YouTube from within Blackboard. So I can see, oh, okay, I can't really preview it here, but if there's something that I know I want to include, I can click on that particular video. It gives me a couple of options here. You know, do you want to show the thumbnail? Do you want to embed the video instead? Do you want to share the YouTube URL, which is always a great idea to share the URL directly if students have issues looking at the embedded content. Do you want to show the YouTube information? Sure, why not? And then I can say submit. And that embeds the YouTube video for me. Instead of me having to go to YouTube, finding the video, clicking on the embed code, coming back here, using HTML to embed the video. This is a nice sort of quick way to do it. And this isn't just for discussion board. This is, you know, throughout Blackboard you can do this. And when I say submit, this is how it will appear, whether it's discussion or whether it's a blog or whatever. And then I can just click on this. I can watch the video right here, or I can click on the YouTube URL and go directly to YouTube. So mashups is a really useful way to get the YouTube stuff into your course. I think there's also Flickr and SlideShare, but I haven't used Flickr and SlideShare in so many years. I don't know if you folks use that as well, but that's available. And then to create the course Q&A, I would go under Course Tools in the control panel, and then I would just click on Discussion Board. When you do that, you sort of, this looks a bit confusing just because we have all these group project things here, but typically you would just see the actual course itself here. So if you click on the course, this is where you go in and you can start to create forums in here. And the forum is sort of like the big container for a discussion. Within the forum, that's where you have the threads, and within the threads is where you have the replies. So if I was to create a forum here, and maybe this, I could call this final exam we could call it final exam, questions about the final exam, let's say. And so I just want to collect questions about the final exam. This is just kind of a standard discussion. It's not going to be graded or anything like that. Please post any of your questions. And then I can answer them through a discussion board. So it's available. I'm going to make it available. I'm going to make it a standard view. There's going to be no grading. People can subscribe. That's fine if they want to see what other people are asking. I'm not going to allow anonymous posts. I will allow the author to delete their own posts, and I'll allow them to edit. So because if they make a mistake or if they feel like, you know, they're not comfortable asking a question, they can go back and change their mind if they'd like to. Allow members to create new threads. That has to be activated in order for them to ask me questions. And file attachments, fine. Users to reply with a quote, that's fine. And this is where I'll also say members can rate posts because I want students to be able to say, yeah, that's a good question. And then submit. So we have our questions about the final exam here. Students will be able to come and create a thread. You know, I have a question. I just want to show you the rating here, blah, blah, blah. So they're creating a thread here. And then when I go in as a student, what I'll do first is I'll just add it to the course menu just down at the bottom. If I hover over the little plus symbol and say add a course link, and I'm going to browse, find the discussion boards, questions about the final exam. So, you know, I might want to pop this in a couple weeks before the final exam. And so when students come here, they can post their questions. So I'll go in as a student to show you what that looks like. Questions about the final exam. And then this person, you know, has asked this question, and I can say, yeah, that's a really good question. So I can give it 5 stars, 4 stars, or I could say, you know, I don't like that question, give it 1 star, but I can say, yeah, 5 stars. So that's a really good question. And then I could also reply and say, you know, I think it's this, but I'm not sure, blah, blah, blah. That's just creating sort of a standard discussion board that's not graded. And having a course Q&A is probably not a bad idea during this time. And then if you do typically get a lot of questions about the final exam, this might be a nice review, sort of pseudo review area where you can ask a question and then get an answer, and then other students can go and see what other students are asking too. Any other questions?
Wrap-up questions, Jen. One is, can you just explain what a thumbnail is? That's one. And Yvette has another question after you explain that.
Yeah, a thumbnail is just sort of a small little freeze frame from the actual video. So if you have a 5-minute video, a thumbnail will be a little picture that was snapped during that 5 minutes so that it's a visual cue to students that it's an actual video.
Great. And then Yvette's asking, for Q&A, does it have to be under discussion board or just have it available all the time since students can ask questions that others can view rather than individual emails?
Yeah, and I you know, we're just using the discussion board for this Q&A right here. And so you could always have it in the menu, and this is a direct link right to that particular discussion board, so you can see all the questions. You don't have to use the Blackboard's discussion board for that. You could use something like Padlet if you wanted to collect question and answers that way too. You could use a Google Doc, you could use, you know, a wiki, you could use that for Q&A. You can use a multitude of tools for it. It's just having it kind of sitting in the course menu is a good idea, so students can always just pop in and see what other students are asking. But yeah, you don't have to use discussion board.
Okay, I think that's it, Jen.
Okay. Yeah, Jody said, I need more screens. Trust me, I think we all need like about 10 screens going on.
Yes. Yeah.
Air traffic controllers that we've become.
Yeah, no problem. And you do certainly, as you become a facilitator, is how to, so there's not only how to use the technology, but there's also how to pedagogically think about a session, an online session, and think about things like, how long should you talk? being active, how to add social time into your class session, what to record, what not to record. All those different things become very, very important questions. So it comes with time and practice and experience. So when you get your students' feedback, highly encourage them when you do it with students to say what worked for you today. At the end, you can do a poll. What worked for you today? What should I do differently next time?
I'll send out some information on Big Blue Button because we didn't get a chance to get to it today, and also on Quickly, so that you can have that information to explore. Any other questions on that? The more you do it, the easier it gets, and the more intuitive it becomes. It's one of those things that when you first start doing it, it's like trying to think through the logic of it. Like, am I sharing this screen? What screen did they see? You just need to do it a lot to get used to it.
All right.
Okay, I'll send out a link to all the recordings from all the 3 sessions, as well as the additional resources from today. The best way to get in touch with support in general is through the teaching email or through the BB support email. So it's teaching@senecacollege.ca if you want to get in touch with Kevin and I or the rest of the team and ask about best practices for classroom stuff or pedagogy or approaches. If you're having technical issues, something's not working, something's not appearing, then Andreas is the best person to go to. If you're having something that needs access to your course, Andreas can get into your actual Blackboard shell and troubleshoot. Yeah, don't email us directly because it's best to email the teams, and that way you'll get a response much more quickly.